All right, good morning. Welcome to day 31 of the online Rankin Technical College AWD1000 Web Development Technologies class. Today, we're going to go through several examples today. All right, a couple that I've written, and a couple that some that are in the book. All right, as it says, you are not responsible for turning these items in. All right. This is done basically because I want to start to get people acclimated with using JavaScript. Tomorrow, as it says, I'm going to give you the first JavaScript pretest. It will be a pretest on chapters 1 through 3. I've already got it written. It'll be emailed to you by 7 o'clock. I'll go over it from 8 until 8:20. You'll have an hour and a half to work on it. There's 2 problems. After that, at 10 o'clock, I will spend the next hour or so going over them. Now, some of you may be upset with this, but hey, I'm trying to be as fair or whatever to everybody as I can. So, as it says, quite a few people are behind in this class. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make Thursday and Friday this week lab days. And Sunday at midnight is the last time I'm going to take any work. You will lose points, but any work for the HTML, CSS, Flexbox, Bootstrap portion of the class. So you can have 2 days dedicated to that. So in other words, just about hours. Now, for those of you who are thinking, well, that isn't fair, I'm getting stuff in on time, you will still be able to work on homework that we have. All right. And then Monday of next week will be your first test. All right. So again, Thursday and Friday will be lab. And as it says in there, Sunday at midnight, as far as I'm concerned, the window closes for anything HTML, CSS, Flexbox, or Bootstrap. All right. So again, the first JavaScript test, the JS Hot 1, will be given Monday of next week. And your chapters 1 through 3 homework, I'm pushing that off until Wednesday. So people who are behind should have the next, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 6 days to catch up on any and all work. I don't want to be grading HTML stuff after this weekend. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a folder in here. All right. And I'm just going to call it, for lack of better words, JavaScript problems. And I'm going to create a bunch of JavaScript problems in here. All right. So the first one that I'm going to create is I'm going to create a very, very simple problem. And I think I mentioned it to you even yesterday, but I'm going to call it odds or evens. All right. And I'm going to set all of these up so that they basically use a template. So in other words, I want all of these in here just because it's the right thing to do. So I want all of these to have a text document in here called index.html. And I want all of these to have in here a folder named JS for JavaScript. And you can name the script anything you want, but I'm just going to name it script. Oops, not .that. I'm going to just name it script.js. And then finally, I'm going to have a CSS folder. Now, I'm not going to even write any CSS today. All right. But I just want you to understand the way these things are meant to be set up. So in other words, if I was doing this and this was a quote, real website, unquote, I would probably also have like an images folder in it. And I might have something else in it too. I don't know. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab this and I'm going to make about 3 or 4 copies. All right, but this is the one I'm going to work with, odds or evens. Okay, opening it rather with code. There it is. All right. Again, we've got an empty styles file in here. We've got an empty script file in here, and we've got an empty index.html file in here. I'm going to start all of these the same way with our hitting our tab key. And this one, I'm going to give a title of odds or evens. And I'm going to do two things in here. That is, I'm going to put in my link tag, and I'm going to put in my script tag. All right, so now I'm ready, for lack of better words, to go. And guess what? Basically, I'm not going to put anything in my body. I mean, I could put stuff in there if I wanted to, but I'm not going to, because what we're concentrating right now is the JavaScript. Remember, I could take this line and put it down here right before the ending body tag and not put the word defer in there. I could put all sorts of stuff in here. Eventually, what we're going to do is we're going to bring in the HTML and the CSS, because we're going to be building complete websites, and we'll build at least a couple of them as a class. All right. So this is all I want so far. Now, to make sure that this works, I'm going to, first of all, I'm just going to save. And I'm going to go into my script.js file, and I'm just going to put in an alert in here that says, hello from JavaScript. All right. And if that works, when I run this program, so when I go back to here and I bring this up, it should bring a little alert box up that says, hello from JavaScript. And there it is. So you can tell that the two things here are indeed communicating with one another. All right, and that's good. That's what I wanted. I don't need that in here anymore, so I'm going to get rid of it. All right, and I'm going to write this, and I'm going to try to write this in a way that we're going to see some stuff in here that you may or may not have seen before, but I want it to be simplistic enough that when we run this, you're going to go, oh, that's what you're doing, type of an idea. So I'm going to start with that use strict statement right at the top. All right. And this program is going to contain two functions. I mentioned yesterday that basically what a function is it's a unit of work. It's designed to basically do one thing. So what I'm going to do in here, first of all, and I'll write comments in. All right. I'm going to ask the user to enter a number. So I'm going to say const number equal parse int. Int, again, is a whole number. It's a number that doesn't have any decimal place in it. So const number equal parse int, and I'm going to put in here prompt, and I'm going to ask the user, enter number. Okay, now if I want to, I can come in and put in here some kind of a default value, a default number like 25. All right, totally fine to do that. Okay, so what should happen when I run this is it should come up and it should ask me to enter a number, and the number it should show there should be 25. Let's just see if indeed it's still working. All right, doesn't like something. That's okay. Let's see how we debug it. We go over and we right mouse click on here and we choose inspect, and we go over here to console. All right. Normally it'll tell us, okay, what the error is. It's not. It says live node enabled. And let's see. It's not giving me any errors. Okay, we're going to still figure out what it is. So const number equal parse int prompt enter a number. Let's get rid of this for now. All right, we'll just say enter a number. All right. Now the problem that we may have, oh, I know what the error is. Okay, And that is, I've got a function here called main that is never being called. So I've got to come in here and call it by saying main. Just like that. Now I can put in that 25. It'll work now. All right, so file, save all. And there it is. Enter a number, and 25 is the number there by default. All right. Now, unlike HTML, where you can create something and make it a number, in JavaScript, when I do this and I do a prompt in there, there's no way for me to guarantee that they're putting in a number. So in other words, I'm asking them to put in a number. What if they leave it blank? Or what if they put in hello, for example? Well, that's wrong because you can't parse that into an integer. If you try, you get that value we talked about yesterday, NaN, which means not a number. All right. So I'm going to check this and I'm going to say while is not a number, the number that we just put in. So while it's not a number, I'm just going to ask you to do it again. All right. And I'll change this to please enter a number so you can tell the difference between the two. So when I do a file save all and I run this again, what you'll notice now is if I put something non-numeric in there, instead of enter a number, it should say, please enter a number. And it does. All right, if I leave it blank, please, I don't know what happened there, but the point is, okay, at least right now, I think it's working. Okay, so we're going to try to keep the user stuck in there, so to speak, until she or he puts in a number. All right. So by the time I get to here, the user has entered a number. So I'm going to put right here, verify that the user entered a number. Okay, so that's what we're doing in here. That's what this is doing. All right, so while whatever we put in there is not a number, we should be asking them to do it again. So once we get down to here, a number was inputted. So the first thing I'm going to do is check to see if that number was 0. All right, so if the number equal 0, then all I'm going to do is I'm going to put out an alert, and I'm going to say alert, the number 0 is neither odd nor even. All right, let's try that and see if that works. So we come in here, if I put in nothing, I get that. And if I put in 0, all right, okay, for some reason, nothing printed. Let's see if we can figure out why. All right, it says to constant variable at main. Okay. All right. All right. The problem is we want to keep changing this. So I really shouldn't have made it a const. I'll make it a let. And we're going to run it again and see if it works now. Okay. All right. So let's just put in nothing. We get our error 0. The number 0 is neither odd nor even. Good. So it's working right now. That's all we could ask for this is the fact that right now it's working. All right. So we've done that. But we're going to put in here an else if. And that is if the number is evenly divisible by 2, we know it's an even number. All right, so a number was inputted, check to see if it was 0. So here we'll say divide number by 2, check remainder. If 0, number is even. All right, so in that case, we're going to say the number, and I'm going to get rid of all that stuff, and we'll put in plus number plus is even. All right, and I'm going to copy this whole thing I've got right here. And I'm going to say else a number is odd. And that's pretty much the whole program. Now, if that confuses you at all, I always tell this to people, kind of play computer. So what are we doing here in this whole program? We're asking the user to enter a number, and we're even giving them a default value. If they just hit enter, it'll accept 25. So that is a number, so this will be skipped. That number is not 0, so that'll be skipped. The number modulo 2 is not 0, so that'll be skipped. And it should come down and say the number 25 is odd. Let's see if indeed that's the case. Well, unlike something else we put in here, so let's go to console. Failed to load resource. The server responded with a status of 404 not found. Well, that's interesting. Let's see if we can figure out why. All right, so we've got script, we've got our defer, there's script, use strict, should have been a semicolon there. Should be semicolons in all these. I'm being very lazy here. Now, these semicolons may be getting removed. They are, all right. And that's something that is inside of, I've got to turn that off. That's something that's inside of Visual Studio. All right. And I had it like that because the last time I taught, all right, and I was teaching JavaScript, we were doing server-side JavaScript where you normally do not put in, semicolons at the end. All right. But I'm still trying to figure out, okay, there's the problem. All right. I was never calling main from outside of the routine. It'll work. All right. So there it is. If we leave 25 in there, the number 25 is odd. All right. Now, there's kind of a problem right now with this program. And what I mean is, all right, I can keep running it like this by basically hitting the, I can go and hit my reload button, but that's kind of a pain in the butt. It would be kind of nice when I got done, if I wanted to check a series of numbers, to be able to put in a series of numbers. All right. So what I'm going to do is after we print this out, and I want you to realize, if we put a number in here, if you put a number in there, a whole number, skipped because what you put in was a number. All right. And you go right down to here. If you put in something not numeric, then you're going to be stuck in here until you put in a number. After you put that in, you got a number, it'll check. If you put in 0, it'll do this, and it'll skip all of this. If you put in an even number, it'll skip this. This will be true, so it will do this, and it will skip this. If you put in an odd number, like 37, it'll skip this, and it'll do this. The only other thing I'd like to do would be to be able to run the program again. So what am I going to do? I'm going to put in here, I'm going to write another routine that's called run again. All right. And I'll put that down here. Function, run again. Just like that. And it's only about 5 lines long. We'll use let. That's fine. Now, I'm asking the user, do they want to run the program again? And I'm telling them to type in a Y if they want to run the program again. And I'm telling them to type in anything else. All right, you could type in an N, but you could type in anything other than a Y, and it won't run the program. All right, but there's a problem with that. The problem is many, many, many people are kind of ignorant. I'm not saying any of you are ignorant. I'm not saying that. But what I mean is that quite often when people run a program, they don't read the directions. I can tell you this very quick story, and it is quick. 10th grade, I'm in a math class. It's Geometry 1. First day of class, the teacher gives us a test. There's 20 things on it. Okay. And it was all sorts of stuff. Number 20 was put down your pencil, look up and smile. And I'm not proud of this, but I'm the only person who went through all 19 steps. And when I looked up, everybody was laughing at me. So the idea was if I'd have read the whole test, I would have been done like that. But I didn't. All right. So the reason I'm telling you that is now what I want to do is what if the person types in yes? Yes is not a Y. All right. It's not Y. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to grab the first character that they key in and I want to make it an uppercase character. So I'll put in here again a let, and I'll call it first character equal again dot to uppercase. We're going to go over all this in just a minute. Dot char at 0. All right, then if first character equal y, meaning they typed in a yes, I'm going to call main again. So play computer again here. What this is saying is after I get done with this program and I figure out if the number is 0, odd, or even, it's going to come out and it's going to prompt me and it's going to say run the program again. If I hit the enter key, there'll be a Y in there. So it will be Y, so it'll call main to run the program again. If I put the word yes in there, let's say I put in YES, all lowercase, then this is going to grab the first character, that's char at 0. That's the first character, and it's going to convert it to uppercase. If I didn't want to do that, I could say if the first character equals a big Y, I could say this too, and it would work just fine. Or the first character equal a little y. We could do it like that too. So there's a lot of ways that this can be written, and that would work just fine. If I did that, then I wouldn't have to do this uppercase thing. I could just do again dot char at. All right. So let's remove this and let's just try it and see if it works. All right. So file, save all. Let me run this. And I'll leave 25 in there. Says the number 25 is odd. Do you want to run the program again? And I'll type in yes in lowercase. Hit enter and notice it's running it again. All right, 100. The number 100 is even. Do I want to run the program again? If I say just a y, a little y, it'll run it again. Enter a number, 0. The number 0 is neither odd nor even. So it looks like all of my stuff in here worked. Now, all I want to say to you about that is people have a tendency to make this stuff harder than it is. All right. So imagine with this whole program right here, just imagine what it is you're sitting at a desk and somebody gives you a piece of paper and says, enter a number. All right. And they've got the number 25 on there. So you can either enter a number or you can just say, hey, use 25. All right. If you put something in there that's blank or non-numeric, that's going to happen. It's going to say, hey, you did it wrong. Do it again. And it'll keep doing that until you put in a number. All right. Once you put in a number, it'll check and it'll say, oh, you put in a 0. 0's not odd and 0's not even. Well, let's say you put in a 4. All right. 4 divided by 2, and this is the remainder operator. So it says take 4 and divide it by 2 and check the remainder. There is no remainder. All right. So we're just going to say, oh, the number you entered was even. You run it again and you put in 55. 55 divided by 2 gives you 27 with a remainder of 1. So the remainder is not 0. So it's going to come down and say the number 55 was odd or is odd. Finally, we're going to ask the user if they want to run the program again. And they can type in anything that starts with a Y. It doesn't matter what you type in after that. Nothing, or you can type in, Yellowstone Park, and it'll still take it because it's throwing everything away except that first character. All right. So if the first you type in is anything but an uppercase or a lowercase y, the program will end. All right. And that's what I wanted to show you here. Now, I'm not going to say to you, because I'm not going to be that brazen and say, hey, does that make sense? You might say it makes almost no sense. So let's look at another one. All right. I'm going to write another program right now. All right. All right. So let me close this and let me close this. And let's see what else is in here. All right. So I've got odds or evens. So that's done now. And let's write a second program. And we'll call this one no arrays. Why? Because we're going to write another one in just a couple minutes. It's going to be called arrays. All right. And by that time, it'll probably be pretty close to break. So with no arrays, okay, I'm going to open that up and I'm going to open it up inside of code. And there's nothing in here because what I copied originally, these are all empty. So we got that empty styles file. You got that empty script file, and we've got an empty index.html file. So again, I'll start it up with my exclamation point tab, and we're going to put in here for a name, no arrays. All right. And remember, because I should have added them before and didn't, that right now this isn't going to work right until I come in and do this. I've got to come in and add my link tag, even though we don't have a link. So technically I could get away without doing it. All right, but that's CSS styles. But this one, script source equal, again, we're going to call this, it's in our JS folder and it's called script.js. And afterwards, we're going to put the word defer in there. All right, so now those two are communicating with one another. I could take the time and go back and open up in here. I could open up my script.js file, and like I did before, I could put an alert in there. But I think that, hopefully everybody says, no, they don't have to do that. I think I understand what you're doing. Okay, so let's go into the script file and let's see how crummy this is without arrays, and then how nice it'll be with arrays in just a moment. All right. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to do this. I'm going to write a comment and it's going to say input 5 test scores. All right. Each score must be numeric, and between 0 and 100. Pretty much what you'd think for a test score. All right. Figure out the total. Figure out the average. And display the average. So that's what we want to do. Okay. Now, the reason I said this kind of stinks, for lack of better words, is I'm going to write this and I'm not going to use any arrays. Now, there's only 5 test scores in here. All right. There's 13 in your class. So what I'm doing right now, imagine I'd had to do it basically almost 3 times. So in other words, I'm going to come in here and say function main, just like we did before. And I'm going to come in here and say, let test1 equal parse int. All right, just like we did before, but this is going to say prompt, enter a test score, enter test score, and I'll put in parentheses here 0 through 100, just so the user has an idea what they're supposed to enter. And we'll default it to 75. All right, so if we don't put anything in there, it'll accept 75. Then, just like we had before, I'm going to say while is not a number, test1, we're just going to ask the user to do it again. All right. And again, we'll put please in there, so you can tell the difference between those. Now, that isn't bad, but the point is, with 5 people, we basically have to do this 5 times. And notice I'm getting errors because I made a test1. So then this one will have to be test2, because that'll be student 2. Then this will be, again, those are all whoops, those are all test2. All right, then these will all be test3. Then these will all be test4. And these will all be test5. Now, it's going to say the same thing every time. So if that confuses you, we could change this to enter test score 1. All right, please enter test score 1. Enter test score 2. Please enter test score 2. Enter test score 3. Please enter test score 3. Enter test score 4. Please enter test score 4. And enter test score 5. Please enter test score 5. All right. So once we get down there, look at all the code I put in here already. And it's all repetitive. This is the same thing as this, except I changed the 1s to 2s. But I've got to do it this way. All right. And I'm already up to almost 40 lines. All right. So I've got all that stuff in there now. So now what do I want to do? I'll say const total equal test1 plus test2, plus test3 plus test4 plus test5. All right, so I've got all that stuff in there. And my average is going to be equal to what? My total divided by 5, because I took 5 tests. And then I want to show that. So alert, your average test score was, and I'll put in here their test score, average, but I'll put it to 2 decimal places. So in other words, the only thing I'm saying right there is if your average was a 71.6666667, it'll say your average was a 71.67. That's all. All right. So let's do this. I'm going to call main just like I did before. All right. My semicolons go away. I'll have to fix that. But let's run this and let's put in valid values. All right. So in fact, before I even run this, all right, I'm going to bring out a calculator. Oops, I'm going to bring out a calculator, not a calendar. I'm going to bring out a calculator and I'm going to put in 5 scores. So I'll put in a 71, a 92, an 83, a 100, and a 50. Whoops. Oh, I screwed that up. Let's just put in numbers I can remember. So 77, 88, 99, 66, and 50. All right. Right. But you'll get it and you'll see it in just a moment. So let me save this and run it. All right. So enter test score 1. Again, we'll put in a 55. Enter test score 2, 66. Enter test score 3, 77. Enter test score 4, 88. Enter test score 5, 100. And it says my average is a 77.20. And if I'd have put a 99 in there, it would have been a 77 for an average. So it does appear as though it's working. Now we're going to put that same routine in to run the program again in just a minute. But again, notice if I put in nothing, it now says, please enter test score 1. All right. So again, let's run it with simple values. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I add up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's going to be like 15. So my average should be a 3. And you can see that it is. All right. So let me go in and from that previous program, that odds or evens that we just did. All right. Let me grab that thing that was called run again. So I'm going to grab all of that. And I'm going to bring it up here. All right. So it should ask the user now if they want to run the program again. So let's just put in here 44, 55, 88, 99, 3. So there's your average 57.8. Do you want to run the program again? Yes. All right. And I could keep going now. So we've now run 2 programs. And you saw they had some stuff in common. Some stuff wasn't in common. This to me is kind of a waste to put in all that stuff that we just put in. All right. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you right now, all right, how easy it is. I'm going to grab everything from here, the entire program. I'm going to copy it to the clipboard. All right. I'm going to do a file save in here, and I'm going to close this. All right. And now I'm going to go to this thing that says arrays. And I'm going to open this up. Oops, sorry, I'm going to open it up with code. Again, there's nothing in here, so I'll put in my exclamation point tab. And here I'm going to put in arrays. All right, because I'm going to be using arrays. In my JavaScript, which is empty, I'm going to copy in everything I had before. So right now, the 2 things are the same. So it's like, why did you do that? All right, I'm going to show you right now. Instead of saying let test 1 in here, I'm going to basically write in here this. I'm going to write a loop. Let's see. What we want to do is we want to create an array that's going to hold 5 test scores. All right, so I'm going to make something called, I'm going to say let test scores equal And that's how you set up an empty array. So there's nothing in there. All right. And again, I mentioned this to you yesterday. Maybe I should have shown it, but again, imagine that you have this. And I think I even mentioned this yesterday to you. So I'm just going to make this very fast, very simple. All right. So imagine that in here, what we have in here is we have an apartment, a 4-unit apartment. So I'm in the first unit. Okay. Jones is in the second unit. Green is in the third unit. And King is in the fourth unit. All right. So we're just pretending right here for lack of better words. All right. And you know as well as I do, if the address is 123 Main Street, let's just say it is. All right. And somebody sends something to Jeff Scott, 123 Main Street, it should get delivered into the right post office box. If somebody says Mike Jones, 123 Main Street, it'll go into that one. Mary Green, it'll, etc. But if somebody does this, and we're going to imagine for just a second that this is apartment 1, apartment 2, we're going to change it in a minute, apartment 3, and apartment 4. Probably if somebody comes in and types in this, Jeff Scott, 123 Main Street, and they say in here, apartment 4, probably they'll still put it in the right box. Now, is there a chance they'll put it in this box? Of course there is. All right. And if I move out and somebody else moves in, all right, I don't know what's going to happen. Now, why am I telling you this? Because imagine that we're working with a program here. All right. We could call this thing mailboxes as an example. So we could say in here, let mailboxes equal like this. Okay. So now mailbox 0 is going to hold Brown. Mailbox 1 is going to hold Jones. Get that? Mailbox 2 is going to hold Green, and mailbox 3 is going to hold King. In fact, we can even set it up like that. We can say mailboxes 0 equal Brown. Mailboxes 1 equal Jones. Mailboxes 2 equal Green. And finally, mailboxes 3 equal King. So if I create this, the array is empty. In other words, there's nothing in it. It would be like we've got a brand new apartment and nobody's moved in yet. But now everybody has moved in. Now remember, originally this was me. And I said that I moved out, and what happened? That's what happened, just like that. So that's how I can change the values that are in there. All right. Now you're going to have to develop in your own way an understanding of what arrays are. All right. And I want to show you one more thing, not to confuse you. Instead of setting it up like this, which is totally fine, but instead of doing this, if I already knew who the 4 people were that are in there, I could do this. Like that. This in one line is doing what we did here in 5 lines. So you might say, well, geez, you should do it like this all the time. It's a lot less typing. Yeah, but like I said, what if it was a brand new apartment complex and no one had moved in yet? All right, that it would be empty just like this. Then you'd have to do it like this. So as people moved in, you could go and associate their mailbox with their last name. All right, so that's what I'm trying to do right here. Okay, so I'm making this empty array, but I want this to be easier. In other words, this right here that you see in blue, I want to do that, but I only want to do it once. All right, in other words, I want to get rid of all of these. Okay, so I've cut my program way down. I've probably removed about 40 lines. How do I do that? I put it into a loop. All right, so I'm going to take this. I'm going to have to make a couple changes to it. All right, and I'm moving it like you can see right here. All right, now it's not test. First of all, it's test scores, okay? But it's not test scores here either. I've got to say the first time through, I want test score 0. Then the next time through, I want test score 1. Then the next time through, I want test score 2. Then test score 3 or 4. All right. Well, how do I keep track? I don't have to. This is how I keep track. All right. So I come in here and I say, let test scores LCV. That's a placeholder. So it'll say, please enter test score. All right. We'll remove that number. All right. And if they put in something non-numeric, we'll ask them to do it again. All right. And again, we'll remove that number there. And they're done. We'll do the same stuff we did before. We'll add up those test scores. All right. But we don't even have to do that. Okay. What do I mean we don't have to do that? Well, notice when we do this, this is basically it's saying that it didn't work, right? We put in something that didn't work. All right. Well, we want a total in here. We could put another loop in here and add them all up, which would be totally fine, but it would kind of be a waste too. All right, but let's do that. So I'm going to make another variable here that says let total. We'll set it equal to 0. That's going to be the total of all the test scores. All right, I'm getting an error because I've got it down here. So I'm going to write another loop just like we just did. And I'm going to say total plus equal test scores LCV. All right. Now you might be looking at this right now and saying, I don't understand a flippin' thing about what you're doing. All I'm doing is, again, in just a minute, I'm going to put in 5 test scores. I'm going to make these up right now. 66, 73, 88. Let's just say you got better every time. 1 and 100. So those will be our 6 test scores. If we go in and say we're doing this without a computer, and I add 66 plus 73 plus 88 plus 91 plus 100, I get 400. Oh, I don't know what the hell happened there, but it was, damn it. All right, try it again. 66 plus 73 plus 88 plus 91 plus 100 equals 418. If I divide that by 5, I get 83.6. So putting in those numbers should give us what we're showing right here. All right. So now I'm looking here, and when you look, it's red here. So what does it say? It says let test scores LCV, and it says it doesn't like something here because it's red. You can see the underscore here. It says test scores are undefined. Well, let test scores. Okay, I don't need the word let. There. So let's see if I put in these numbers right here, if indeed it works the way that it's supposed to. All right, because I'll forget what those numbers are. I'm going to put them right there, and I'm going to run the program again. Hopefully we have no errors in it. Now, if it comes up like this, there must be an error in it. So let's see if we can figure out what it is. All right, it's saying it can't find anything. So let's look again. So in here, oh, look what I didn't put in. I didn't put in our link, and I didn't put in our script tag here. So you can see there's no communication there. All right, so let's save it and run it again. Well, still doesn't like something, so let's look again. And we'll take a break in just a moment. So let's see. This is arrays. So let me do a file save all here, or save. All right. Style sheet, that looks okay. That looks okay. So let's run it again. Now, if it comes up with nothing like this, literally nothing, of course, there's an error. So you go down to inspect, and you go over to console, and you look. And it says unexpected token in line 22. Okay. Then let's look at line 22. And notice I put a parenthesis in there. Why? I don't know, but I did. So file save all, and let's run it again. All right, so now it's asking me. So again, our numbers were 66. Then the next one was 73. And then the next one was 88, I believe. So 88. And the next one was 91. And the last one was 100. And it comes back and it says our average was 83.60. Now, the key thing to note here is the fact that we cut down the amount of code that we had in here. This now has 40 lines. When we did it previously with the other one, before we brought in an array and before we brought in a loop, that same exact program was 50 lines. Now you might say, well, that's not that big a savings. You'd be amazed when you go back and you go through a program and you do what's called refactor it to try to write it so you have less code. That doesn't mean you're being lazy. But I've said this to you yesterday. It is much easier for a person to maintain 100 lines of code as opposed to, let's say, 250 lines of code. Plus, the code will run faster because there's less code. All right. So what I've shown you so far have been 3 programs. All right. The first one where we did odd numbers and even numbers. Then we wrote where we inputted 5 test scores without using an array. Then we inputted 5 test scores using an array. All right. It is 9 o'clock. Let's take a break. And when we come back, we're going to take a look at what's in here. We're going to do these 3 problems right here. All right, so come back, please, at 9:10. All right, it's 9:10, so I'm going to continue on. And again, what we're going to do right now is we're going to go over these 3 exercises right here. And as I mentioned before, if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling like I'm never going to get this stuff, it makes no sense, then take a step back. And as an example here, I went out to the W3 schools JavaScript tutorial, and it is unbelievably extensive. There's a bunch of stuff in here we don't go over because there's just no time. But it starts with knowing nothing. All right. My first JavaScript. All right. Now click me to display the date and the time. I'm not saying that's going to make any sense to you, but as you work your way through it, hopefully it'll make some sense to you. All right. That's all we can hope for right now. So let's take a look. So the first one is short 1-1. All right. Here it is. Get rid of that. There we go. In this exercise, you'll run a version of the email list application and discover that it stops running due to a coding error. Then you'll use Chrome to identify the statement that made it not work. All right, fair enough. So I'm going to bring that up. And I've got here chapter 1 short. There it is, the email list. So let's bring that up and we will bring it up with code. So here it is. We've got the CSS in there. This is how basically how Muroc makes all their programs pretty much look. We've got an index file in here. We've got a join file. So once it works, it should come back and say, thanks for joining our mailing list. And we've got the JavaScript. All right. So let's see if we can figure out where the problem is. So I'm going over to my HTML file right here. And I know that it's in my JavaScript file. So I'm going to bring both of those up. All right. So I've got, there's my index file and there's my email.js. So I'm going to run this. And according to the book, it won't work. And that's okay. All right. So they saying that it's not going to work. So let's see. Well, it looks like it's working to me. So let's see. How about if we put stuff in there? All right. Well, it's not working. In other words, if we leave this blank and we click join, we get our email as required and they must match. That's good. So if we leave everything blank, notice since they're both blank, they do match. But if I put in here an R and I put in here a T, okay, boom. All right, so something's wrong. Let's see if we can figure out what the problem is. So again, I'm going to right mouse click on my output here, and I'm going to choose inspect, and I'm going to go over again and find console. And it says a couple things. Failed to load resource, that's just a favicon, but it says uncaught type error, line 36, submit. There's 2 T's in the word submit. In fact, I can even click here and it'll show me where the error was. So I'm going to go back, close this, and I'm going to go back into my program. In the email list, I'm going to look in line 36. And lo and behold, there it was. So just so for my own edification here, there's the one that doesn't work. Now it should work. All right, that was a pretty simple fix. Let's see if indeed it does work now. And thanks for joining our list, and go back. So yeah, it works. That was pretty simple, but that was the first one that you were supposed to do in there. All right. So let's just continue on and take a look at what was next. Next, it says modify the test score application. All right. Says in this exercise, you'll modify the test score application so that it provides for 4 test scores. All right. So it provides for 4 test scores and displays the results in a dialog box like that. So let's open this up. The test scores says run the application and note that it works like the one in the book and that it writes the results to a browser page. Then review the code in the JavaScript file and note it's slightly different than the code in the book, although it gets the same results. Modify the application so that it provides for a 4th test score. Then modify the application so it displays the results in a dialog box like the one above, as well as in the browser page after the dialog is closed. So we want this test scores app, and let's take a look at it. So again, I'm going to come back up into here. Shouldn't have really closed that, but that's okay. So chapter 2, test scores, we'll open it up with code. All right. And the first thing I want to do is run it to see exactly what it's doing right now. So in my index file, I'm going to open it with live server. All right, enter test score. So I'll put in a 55, enter another one, 66, enter another one, 77. So that's what it looks like right now. In other words, they want us just to come back in here and literally add another score. Well, again, that seems at least pretty straightforward. So we're going to go into our JS file. And this is very similar to what I showed you before. Now look in here, unlike what you were shown earlier by me, in this example, they're not doing anything. They're not doing anything as far as validation goes. So in other words, if I run this, you may have noticed it already, you may not have, but if I run this and I put nothing in for the first score, in fact, I'm going to leave them all blank. I get NaN, not a number for everything. All right. So the example that I showed you, it's not that it's so much better, but it did provide some validation in it. So let's go into here. We want to make 4 scores. So I'm going to copy this. And I'm going to say score 4 equals enter a test score. Now we've got to add that 4th score. All right. And when we're figuring out our average, we have to divide it by 4. All right. Plus, we want to come down here and on our browser page, we want to add the 4th score. All right. So let's see if we did all that now. So I'm going to save all. I'm going to come back to my index file and I'm going to run it. All right, so let's just enter 4 scores. It'll be fairly simple to figure out whether or not it worked. So let's say a 25, a 50, a 100, and a 90. All right, so 25 and 50 is 75, and 100 is 175, and 90 is 265. 265 divided by 4 should give me about a 66.5 if I did it right in my head. All right, but we just asked for the whole number and it appears to be working. All right, so again, all we had to do in here was to come into here, add another test score, make sure we add that other test score to our total, change our average from dividing by 4 to dividing by 3, and then print it out. All right, and I believe that's everything that we were asked to do in there. Okay, all right. So again, I'll do a file save. Close this, and I'll just close this anyway. And then let's look at the next one. All right, this is that future value application. Okay, so first let's open it up and see if it even runs. All right, so I will open this with code. I will bring up our index.html file, and I will bring up our future value file, or try to. Hate the way that does that. Okay. There we go. Okay, so let's run it and see if it even works. So enter the amount that you want to invest. We'll use all the defaults. So 1,000. The interest rate will be 7.5. The number of years will be 10. And that says that's how much we should make. So it looks as though right now it works. So let's see what it is we're supposed to do here. All right. In this exercise, you'll make a quick enhancement that shows not only the future value when interest is compounded yearly, but also when it's compounded monthly. All right, what's the difference? All right, basically to get it compounded monthly, you're going to be doing a different calculation than if you were doing it yearly. All right, and again, hopefully at least that makes at least a little bit of sense to you. All right, maybe it makes very little sense, but hopefully when we go over it here, it'll make a little bit more sense. All right, so let's see what we've got in here. All right, so first let's go through this. Okay, we're told to get an investment, right? And notice I used a while loop, they use a do while. No biggie, no big difference. All right, and it again will default to $10,000. Then we'll get an interest rate. And again, it will default here to 7.5%. Then we'll get a number of years. And again, it will default to 10. Okay, I mean, as far as I can tell, at least, so far, it seems pretty straightforward. Then we calculate the future value. All right, this is calculating the future value as if we were doing it on a yearly basis. So in other words, that is 7.5% annually. But what we're told to do, is also calculate the future value as though it was monthly. So what does that even mean? All right. Well, I'm going to put in here, calculate future value annually. And then I'm going to copy this and put it right below where I currently am. And I'm going to say now, calculate future value monthly. All right. So let's change this to future value annual. All right. So all of these again, let's see. Those all have to, oops, be future value annual. It should still work right now and work exactly the same way it just did. But I haven't done anything for monthly yet. All right. Now, the first thing we have to do is we have to figure out the number of months. How do we do that? Well, 12 months in a year. So if we put in 10 years, 10 times 12, be 120. This can be a constant. It's always going to be the same. You know, when the program runs, it'll be whatever we put in for years times 12. Okay, so nothing new there. Now I'm going to call this future value monthly. All right, just so I don't get those confused. All right, but now I don't want to do it by number of years. I want to do it by months. All right. And when I take a look at what's here, all right, this isn't right anymore. It's got to now be rate divided by 12 divided by 100. So the changes I made from the one up above, other than the name, was I brought in months. Instead of going through the years, we now go through the months. And instead of taking the rate divided by 100, it's now the rate divided by 12 by 100. All right. So let's go down where we're displaying our results. So this will be display results annual. And I'm going to copy it. And right below that, I'm going to display results monthly. All right. And let's put a little something else in here so we know which is which. And we can put in whatever we want here. All right. We can literally put in whatever we want. I'm going to put in an H3 tag. And I'll say future value yearly interest. All right. And then the one down here, I am going to say future value monthly interest. Now, this is no longer future value annual, it's future value monthly. Those are all, I think those are all the changes we have to make. All right. So let's do this. I'm going to do a file, save all, and I'm going to run it again, and I'm going to use all of the default values. All right. So let me run this. And again, all of the defaults of whatever that is, 1,000 or 10,000, whatever. So we get this. And you can see the difference now. Let's see the same difference they showed us here. All right. In other words, are these two things equal to one another? So let me move this over. Oh, like that. Oh, that's the other one. All right. I'm going to move that over so you can see that. Like that. And then try to find the one that was in the book right here and make that smaller as well. All right, so 20,610.32, 21,120.66. So in other words, if you are going to invest and your investment is compounded monthly, you will make more money than if it's compounded annually. I'm not saying that's exactly what they were trying to show you here, but that's what we just proved. All right, now, if we go back to this program again, going back to the same program that we were just at, and I want to take a quick look at the program here. Notice again, they did a do while, which means this will always run. I did a while. All right. So the point is, you're going to get the same kinds of output. You could have made these while loops, but you'll notice in here, when I open it, if I put something that is non-numeric in here, it just says do it again, and it refreshes and it gives it a value. Now, one thing that's unique about JavaScript as opposed to most other programming languages is with JavaScript, all right, if I put in 1,000 and then I type in hello, believe it or not, this is going to work. Because what that'll do when you've got a prompt like this is it reads until it finds a non-numeric character, or until you just hit enter if they're all numeric. But this should work. All right. And I'll do the same thing here, 7.5. I'll put in VVVV or whatever. For years, 10 GGG. And it all still works. All right. And it's that wasn't a gee whiz type of moment, but I just want you to realize that the only way this won't work, all right, is if the first character that it sees is a non-numeric character, meaning either you left it blank. So again, if I run this again, all right, so if I run this program again and I put in, instead of 1,000, a 1,000, a, uh, it didn't work. Right? That's the validation that we put in. All right. Much of the work that you end up doing as a programmer is data validation. You never want to let bad data into the system. All right. And in a way, what I've kind of equated this to in the past is working with data validation is kind of like car insurance. In other words, we're all supposed to have car insurance, but we hope and pray we never need it. But if we need it, we might need it badly. And it's the same kind of thing that we're talking about in here. It's really the same exact thing that we're talking about in here. All right. And that's what I'm saying. Sorry that somebody behind me is mowing their lawn. All right. So again, there are different ways that we can come in here and we can do validation. You've been seeing a couple of them. Theirs with a do while, mine with a while. What you cannot do in here is, if you remember when we did the array program, we used what's called a for loop. You can't use a for loop in here. The for loop is called a counting loop. So you need to know exactly how many times you're going through something. Well, if you've got somebody running this program and they're constantly fat fingering, in other words, they're constantly putting in things that they shouldn't be putting in, you don't know how many times they may screw it up before they type something in a correct way. All right. Or maybe they never do. And whatever they put in is just plain incorrect. All right. So those are the first three then. So let's close all this. All right. And so what we have done so far is we've already gone over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different programs. All right. And you might think, yeah, you have, and it's way, way too fast. Then go back and watch the tape again. I'm not trying to blitz through these. I'm really and truly not. All right. So let's see what's next. And what's next in here. So we went over these short exercises. We just did these. Okay, so all three of those we've gone over. So now we've got exercises. All right. And so what we're going to go over now are these 5 exercises. Convert Fahrenheit to Celsius, enhance the Fahrenheit to Celsius application, convert number grades to letter grades, create a sum of numbers function, and develop a sales array. All right. I will tell you now, I'm not just saying this. All right. I'm going to keep going over these as we go on through the semester. So the next 2 chapters we're going to go over next week will be 4 and 5. So after we've gone over those, I will do 4.1, 4.2, and 4.3. All right. And then for the other one, whoops, for the short exercises, all right, next week, we'll go over these 3. And then we'll do 6 and 7, then 8 through 11, etc. And as long as we have time, I'll keep doing these. And I would tell you, I will save this one. I will put this one out there as a GitHub repo. I'm not going to do it every time. All right. You should have to do some of this work if you want the knowledge, to accrue the knowledge, you should have to do it on your own. All right. So we've done these 3 so far. All right. And now we're going to jump over and we're going to do these 5. All right. Now, one thing I have to do is I don't have them, so I've got to go grab them. So let me look here and homework. I don't know if I've got them there or not. Okay, I think this is them. So again, this will be chapters 2 and 3. Copy, paste those in. So this will be chapter 2 extra and chapter 3 extra. All right. So let's go right to it. And here's chapter 2 extra. So what does it tell us we're supposed to do here? All right. In this exercise, you'll create an application that converts Fahrenheit temperatures to Celsius temperatures by using the prompt method of the window object and the write method of the document object. So it very similar to what we looked at before in here, but when we write it, it's going to write it right out to our web page. And they give you the formula. All right, so we'll use that formula in just a minute. So I'm hoping this is the right file. All right, it says review the script element at the end. Note that it's empty. You'll write the code for this script element within this element. Okay. Develop the application. Allow the user to enter decimal numbers and display the Fahrenheit value entered by the user and the calculated Celsius value to 1 digit. All right, exactly what they show here. This is what we want. So that should be our output. All right. So we've got this. That's all that's in there. Okay, we don't have any CSS. We don't have any JavaScript in there right now. So let's open this up with code. And there it is. Now, for whatever reason, and I don't like the fact they're doing this, but they want us to put the code right in here. That is a poor practice. Again, I've mentioned I've kind of harped on this to you a few times, talking about this separation of concerns. All right. Is the fact that, okay, that what you should always be doing is putting your JavaScript in a JavaScript file. So I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll put all the code in here, and then we'll move it to a JavaScript file so you can see exactly what happens. Hopefully it'll work when we do this. If it doesn't, well, that's fine. All right. So the first thing we want to do is we want to get the Fahrenheit temperature from the user, and we want to convert it. All right. So in other words, we want to ask the user to input a temperature, and then we want to convert the temperature. All right. So prompt for temperature, convert to a float. And all a float means is that it can have a decimal place. Now I'm going to show you 2 ways of doing this. So I'm going to say we'll call it FAHR for Fahrenheit, equal. What we have done in the past is this. We've said prompt, parse float, enter a temperature. And we can just give it a default value. We don't have to, but we can. I'll give it a default value of 100, just like that. All right. So if I ram this right now, it should come up on the screen and ask me. Let's see if it does. There it is. Now this says NaN, I don't know why, but let's put in here 100. All right. Okay. Believe it or not, it's working so far. All right. That's good. So we've got this prompt. Now, what if you don't want to do it like this? And what am I talking about? Well, we've got this right here. And what if we do this? What if we say this? I'm going to remove this parse float from here. So it just says enter a temperature and it says nothing else. All right. So enter a temperature. Okay, fine. So if we do that, now we can come in here and say let ftemp equal parse float FAHR. Now, what I'm putting on here may not sound like an important thing, but it is fairly important. What I'm trying to show you here is it's up to you. Here I'm making two variables. All right, bar FAHR and ftemp. All right. I probably could have just said let var equals this, but I like doing it like this. This right now, that's a string. So if I put 100 in there, it's not the number 100. It is the string 100 that has absolutely no, it has absolutely no numeric value. All right. Whereas when we did it before, we were putting them together into one thing. It's no biggie. You can do it either way. Now, we're not asked to do any checks in here. We will be in a later. So I'm not going to put any checks in here at all. In other words, I could put in a gazillion in here. So I could put in a 1 with a lot of zeros in it, and it'll still do it. All right. But we'll do that. We'll handle that later. So now what do I want to do? I want to calculate the Celsius temperature. All right. So if I go back and take a look, it showed me right here. It says, in fact, I'm going to grab this, copy it, and I'll put it in here. All right. To convert from Fahrenheit to Celsius, first subtract 32 from the Fahrenheit temperature. Okay. Then multiply the result by 5 divided by 9. Okay. So we're going to do that right now. Now, let, and so is this. Why? Because eventually, if we put some error handling or data validation in there, we might screw it up the first time. So we might have to do it more than once. Once we're down here, we've got a valid Fahrenheit temperature. So this can be a const. And again, let means that the value is changeable. Const means it's constant. It's non-changing. So I'm going to say here, says subtract 32 from the Fahrenheit. So that's ftemp minus 32. All right. And then multiply the results by 5 divided by 9. Okay. And then the last thing we're supposed to do is display the conversion. So we're supposed to put them both in there. All right. So this will be some HTML I'm going to write right on the screen. And what do we have here? This should have been Celsius equals that. It's the Celsius temperature. So I'm going to call this HTML. I'm going to set it equal to. If I put these backticks in here, like you see, I can put actual HTML in here. So I'll put in here, let's see. I'll put in ftemp degrees Fahrenheit equals cell degrees Celsius. Now, guess what? It ain't going to work right. All right. So I can put that in and I can put in my backtick. But when I put in backticks like this, all right, what it expects here when I put in these backticks is literal values. I think what this is going to say is literally this: F temp degrees Fahrenheit equals cell degrees Celsius. I think that's what it's going to say. Let's find out. So it doesn't matter what I put in here. All right. In fact, I'm getting nothing. Why? Because I never told it document.write right here. That's saying to write it right out on the screen. So let's do it again. And it says F temp degrees Fahrenheit equals cell degrees Celsius. Well, here's the surprise. That isn't right. So let's fix it so that it is right. All right. What it expects are the actual values for this and the actual value for this. All right. If we do it like this, like it's being shown right now, and we use these backticks, we can come in here and I'm going to create what's called a string literal. You don't have to worry about it right now, but I just want you to see it. So I'm going to put in here a $sign. All right. And then in curly braces, I'm going to say ftemp dot toFixed. And they wanted it, they wanted it to 1 decimal place. All right, degrees Fahrenheit equals, and let me do a word wrap on this. All right, and we'll do the same thing here. $sign, put this inside of curly braces, dot toFixed to 1 decimal place. Now what it should say is something along the lines of 100 degrees Fahrenheit equals, let's say, 37.8 degrees Celsius, something along those lines. But not doing anything. What does that mean? Must be an error. All right. toFixed is not defined in here. Well, let's look. toFixed 1. ftemp. Okay, that should have been a $sign there. Oh, let's see. It's not, I'm wrong what I just said. Let's see. Sign ftemp dot toFixed 1. See if I fixed it or I didn't fix it. "100 degrees Fahrenheit equals 37.8 degrees Celsius." All right. Don't worry about this right now, but let's look at the rest of the program. All right. So we came in and we asked the user here, we prompted him or her for a temperature. And then we converted it to a float. Again, rather than doing it like this, we could have combined these two things into one line and said, let ftemp equal prompt parse int, parse float, and then said, enter a temperature. So we could have replaced, all right, we could have come in here and replaced those 2 lines with 1 line. Either way would work. Either way is fine. And then, so we've got a Fahrenheit temperature. Then we take that temperature, subtract 32 from it, multiply it by 5 and divide it by 9. I didn't put that parenthesis in there or there. All right, Visual Studio Code did. All right, but this should still work like this. So let me save it. Unless I keyed in something incorrectly. So 100, let's try something else. Let's try 32. Okay, it still doesn't like something, so I did screw something up. It says toFixed is not a function at line 23. And looks like it's right to me. ftemp dot toFixed 1. Let's get rid of the dot toFixed and just see if that's what the problem is in there. So I'm going to get rid of both of those. I just want to see if what I'm put in here is correct or not. All right, so you can see without the toFixed, it doesn't look very nice. But the point is, when we take a look at what's in here, we are prompting, we are running a calculation. So this is our input, this is our calculate, and this is our output. I mean, that's everything. So why didn't it like the dot toFixed in here? I'm going to try to figure that out right now. So dot toFixed 1, that is correct. Dot toFixed 1, that looks correct. So let's try it again. Still doesn't like it. Says toFixed is not a function right here. Now I'm going to take this one and remove it and see if I get the same error here or not. All right. I mean, the big part of coding is being able to debug your programs. So I'm going to remove this and I want to see if I get the same error down here or I don't get that error. So that one worked. Now, what did I do different here that I didn't do here? And I don't know, but I'm going to grab this one and I'm going to put it in here. Just change that from cell to ftemp. All right. And I'm going to see now if it works or it doesn't work. And it's not working. I believe I believe that the reason that it doesn't like it, and I believe that the reason that it's giving me Jeffrey, the reason that it's giving me an error like this, it's giving me that error that says ftemp.toFixed is not a function, is for whatever reason, because this is already a float value. All right, and it doesn't like me doing it that way. I don't understand because on my key, that's exactly how I did it. And it worked just fine. All right. So I'm looking in here for something that looks wrong and I don't see it. But you already saw if I remove this, it now works. See, that worked just fine. So I don't know, looking at it quickly, I don't know what the problem is. All right, not sure what that problem is. Also, you may or may not have noticed that when we come in here, all right, and this says enter a temp and it's supposed to say 100. But notice when I run it, what actually happens. NAN, and there's nothing there. What does that mean? Well, I think that if I put this into double quotes, I think it'll appear the way we want it to appear. No, it still is saying NAN. Boy, oh boy, this has been interesting. I mean, it's working. Enter a temperature. Now, if I leave this out, this is just supposed to be a default value. All right, so if I leave that out like this, all right, I'm still getting an NAN there. So I'm getting an NAN. All right. Okay. Let's talk about why I'm getting it right now, because I reversed these two. This should be on the outside. The parse float should be on the outside, and the prompt should be on the inside, like that. Now, if I come in here and I put in 100, this should work just fine. I need another parenthesis there. Let's see if that was the problem. Now it's enter a temperature and there's my 100. Okay. I'm still not positive why I was getting that error down here. But I'm not going to worry about it right now. The other thing I said was, can we go in? Can we go in? I don't know. I'm going to grab everything that's in here. Everything. In fact, I'll copy it just in case this doesn't work. And I'm going to take everything that's here and I'm going to comment out the entire thing, every line that's in here. Just like that. So they're all commented out. And then I'm going to come in and I'm going to add a new file. All right. So let's add a new folder first that we'll call JS. And then in the JS folder, we'll add a new file that'll be called script.js. Then I'm going to put that whole thing in here. All right, so now that's back, but I've got to go into this file here now, and I have to say script, and I'll say, whoops, source equal js/script.js. Let's see if it still works, putting that into an external file. Okay, it still came up, 100, and there it is. That is a much, much, much cleaner way of doing it. All right. So what I'll do is I'll keep both of those in there. I'll keep the one in, but I'll have it commented out. All right. So that's the first one. Now, whoa. It happens when you leave something off. So let's save all here. And there's that one. So let's look at the next one here. Enhance now the Fahrenheit to Celsius program. Okay, we want to make it look better. So we'll add data validation. All right. Also let the user do multiple conversions before ending the application. This is the dialog box for an invalid entry. All right, so it should say that if you screw up. And if we do several of them, it should look like this. Okay, it says folder. Okay, why don't we just do this? All right, I'm going to just do a file save all on this and close this and close that. And then come in, I've got a chapter 3 and no, that's in the which the extras, I think. Extras. So this is extra 3.1. All right, so we don't even have that in here yet. That's okay. I'm going to put it in here right now. All right, so let's go back to chapter 2. And I'm going to just grab both of these, copy them to the clipboard, go back to chapter 3 extra, and now I'm going to put them in. Okay, so now I've got them in here. All right, then we'll come in and we'll start talking about what we want to do as far as. So let's open the. We'll do this one, then we'll take another break. All right, so right now we don't care about the letter grade. We don't care about the sum of numbers. We don't care about the sales arrays. We only care about this convert temps that's right here. All right, for now, because you've already seen it with the code in there, I'm going to take this code and remove it. All right. So in other words, I'm calling the script from in here. This is the same thing as if we put the script down here or we put it up here. It really wouldn't matter. In fact, let's move it up to the top. Now, I believe at least that's all we have to do, except again, we need to put the word defer in there, or we could use async. All right, so we've got all that. Now let's jump back into our JavaScript file, our script.js file that's right here. Okay, and talk about what we have to do. So we want something that looks like this, and we want to make sure that they put in a value between -100 and +212. And this is good because it's going to let me show you something we have not yet talked about at all. So before we prompt for a temperature, I'm going to make two constants. And the way that you make constants in JavaScript is typically different than the way you make constants in other languages. If you say, I don't understand, I'm going to show you it right now. In most languages, when you make a constant, they're all uppercase. So I'm going to say min temp equals -100. Max temp equals +212. Just like that. If you care, and you may not, you can actually put a plus sign in there. Doesn't hurt anything. All right, it's superfluous. In other words, it's redundant because it assumes that it's positive anyway. So now we're again telling them to come in here and prompt. That's fine. All right, but let's write it the way the authors did. So I'm going to come in here and type in a do. It's like that. All right, and I'm going to put in here while ftemp is less than min temp, or ftemp is greater than max temp. I'm going to explain everything I just did in about 15 seconds. And I tend to over parenthesize, but I like to exactly show everything I'm doing here. So what this should be doing now is it should come in and run the program, and it should say enter a temperature. All right, that's fine. But let's change our message here. That's so it says between -100 and 212. Now it's going off the screen, so let's view word wrap. All right. So they should say enter a temperature between -100 and 212. And it's going to assume our default is 100. Then after we enter it, it's going to check. And if we put something that's out of range, so less than -100 or greater than 212, it should jump right back in here and oops, and ask us to do it again, just like that. All right, so that was one thing we were asked to do. Is there anything else? We want to be able to do this again and run the program again. All right, well, you know what? We already know how to do that routine before, back in when we were doing these arrays and all these other programs. So let me go grab that routine. That was this run again. All right. And in fact, what I'm going to do here, kind of like the way that I was doing my programs before, is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to take this and I'm going to make this a function. So I'm going to say function input temperature, input Fahrenheit temperature, just like that. All right. And now I'm going to have this whole thing in here. Don't worry, it'll be all fixed literally in a matter of seconds. All right. Now, notice what it's called. Input Fahrenheit temperature. Okay. I'm not calling that function from any place. So down here, I have to say input Fahrenheit temperature. I have to call it. All right. So there's the inputting right there. I think you'd agree. There's the inputting. All right. So there's ftemp, etc. But I'm actually doing three things here. I'm inputting right here. I'm converting right there. And I'm displaying right here. In addition, when I get done, I want to ask the user, I want to ask the user if they want to do it again. Or whatever it was, run program again, or whatever I called it. So I'm going to call here input Fahrenheit temperature. Okay. And I'm going to end this right here. All right. So that's going to input the temperature. Then guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to come in here and I'm going to call calculate Celsius temperature. All right. And that's going to be in here. So function calculate Celsius temperature. Now, again, if I'm really, you think I'm playing games with you or whatever, and it's like, I don't get it. Let me finish the whole thing here. All right. Then when I get done with this, all right, let's see, then I want to display results. So function display results. All right. And after I do all that stuff, then I want to call this do again. That hasn't been written yet, and that was why it was giving me an error. All right, so let's look at everything that's in here. Okay, here we're inputting our temperature. Here we're calculating, and here we're displaying. And you might say, big deal. It is, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another function here that's called main. And inside of main is known as a driver. It doesn't do the work. It calls the other routines to do the work. So it's going to come in here and it's first going to call input Fahrenheit temperature. And then it's going to call calculate Celsius temperature. And then it's going to call display results. And then it's going to call, I wish I would have kept it up and I didn't. Let me grab that and put it in here. Run again. So we will call run again. It might give me an error. I was going to say it could have because I haven't written that yet. So I'll put that down here. In fact, I think I've got the whole thing in here already. There it is. All right. Now, like I said, you might think I have absolutely no idea what you're doing here. All right. But it actually makes a lot of sense. And it kind of goes back to what I mentioned to you yesterday about when I had my own house. And well, when I came home and I had 5 rooms to clean, I divvied it up. I said, okay, all I'm going to do is just clean the kitchen. Boom, I cleaned the kitchen. You know what? I still feel I'm not that tired yet. I'm going to clean the living room, etc. We're doing the same thing here. All right. There's only one problem or 2 problems right now. All right. This F temp is only known inside of using F temp outside of this routine. It's not going to work. All right. How do I get around that? I just come up to the top here and I say, let F temp and let's call the other one C temp. So you know which is which, Fahrenheit temperature and Celsius temperature. All right. So we've got that one. This one now will be C temp. All right. And I'll have to change this to C temp also. All right. And then we'll ask the user if they want to run the program again. Now, it may not run. I did all that literally off the top of my head. But what we've done is we've taken the program and we've broken it down into 4 parts: input, calculate, output, run again. I have no idea if this is going to work or not, but we're going to take a break in just a couple minutes. All right, it's not, so let's see where the problem is. Failed to load resource. No, that's not the problem. That's just a thing with the favicon, so let's go back to it here. Oh, I know what the problem is. All right, we're bringing in that program, but, and I showed you this before, we're never calling main. We're never calling that routine. So down at the very bottom here, I'm going to call main. All right, I'm hoping that'll work. All right, enter a temperature. Let's enter one that's out of range. So negative 222. Okay, didn't like something, so let's keep going. F temp is not defined in line 22. Okay. Because that should be a capital T there, and it should be a capital T there. Remember, this is a case-sensitive language. So negative 222 still doesn't like something. F temp is not defined. All right, well, let's make sure. So it says at 22, F temp. What's defined up here? Oh, I know what the problem is. Okay. This is all correct, but I can't define those in main. I've got to define those at the top of the program. All right. This is so far, I mean, what I'm showing you now is what we're going to be going over in a few chapters. but I decided to show it to you so you can see what we're moving towards. So minus 222. All right, says run the program again. No, still didn't like something. Let's take a break. And while we're on the break, it's failed to execute write in line 35. It isn't possible to write a document from an asynchronously loaded external script unless it's explicitly opened. All right, I'm going to look at it during the break. It is 10:15. Let's come back at 10:25. Come back then. We're going to go over 3.2, 3.3, and 3.4. 3.4 is actually probably the hardest one that you'll have today. So come back, please. 10:26. It's 10:16 now. All right, it's 10:26, so I'm going to continue on. It works now, and it wasn't very a big thing. All right, so let's see what to do. I had to move these up to the top. All right, I had to make sure I called main, so main called this, which ran this. It was just a do while loop that said enter a Fahrenheit temperature, and then I grabbed this from our PDF. Entry must range from 0 to 212, just like that. All right. And eventually, so if they put in something incorrect, the message came up again, and they were asked to put it in again. Eventually, hopefully, they put in a temperature that made sense. Then we called calculate Celsius temperature, which took that Fahrenheit temperature that we had, subtracted it by 32, multiplied the result by 5, and divided that result by 9. Then we called display results, and that displayed everything. Now, the reason it didn't work before is I had a let right there. When I made a let right there, it didn't think this was the same variable. It thought it was a new variable that again was called ftemp, which is legal to do. So now if you take a look at it, this is, I think this is a screwy program that they asked you to write, but it does work. So when I come in here now and I open it with live server, all right, it says enter a Fahrenheit temperature. Entry must range from -100 to +212. So notice if I put -101, it doesn't take it. It comes back with the same message. If I put in 213, again, it gives us the same message. All right. And I'm going to put in 100. And all it does is it says, do you want to run the program again? Yes. I'll put in 32. Do I want to run the program again? Yes. I'll put in 0. Do I want to run the program again? I'll give it one more try. And I'll put in 72. Do I want to run the program again? No. And it prints everything out. All right. So it does everything that it's supposed to be doing. I went and looked during the break, and I can't remember how to turn those semicolons back on, but I'll figure that out. You will get a copy of all this at the end of the period today. All right. So there is that one. So we've now gone in, and in here, we have done 2.1, which was convert Fahrenheit to Celsius, 3.1, which enhanced that. So there's 3 more we have to do. The next one is convert number grades to letter grades. It says this exercise will give you practice using if statements. To start, it should display something like that. Enter number grade 0 to 100 or 999 to end. Now, that value that you see right there, that 999, it's known in computer terminology as a sentinel value. If you remember from the old movies, the sentinel was somebody who guarded a place and would always like halt, who goes there? Well, this is saying that this is a sentinel value, so the program should continue to run until I put the number 999 in there. All right. Then it should show for my grades. All right. This right here. So A is 88 to 100. B is 80 to 87. C is 68 to 79. D is 60 to 67. And F is less than 60. Now there's all sorts of ways that you can run this. All right. But I'm going to open this. I'll do what they did this time now. I'll write it right inside of here. All right. And I'll add the JavaScript code and I'll add the data validation. So we're going to do all that right now. How are we going to do that? Well, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to do a file, save, and I'm going to close all of these that are up right now and running. And this is what I have in here right now. All right. I've got the convert temps. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this stuff out. In other words, just so you have an idea of what I'm doing and when I did it. All right. So for the chapter 3 short. I'm going to change this and I'm going to put in here 3.1 enhanced Fahrenheit to Celsius. And then I'm going to grab the convert temps and put that in there. And I'm going to grab the JS and I'm going to put that in there. All right. Then I'm going to go and make another folder in here that I'm just going to call letter grades. And I'm going to put that letter grade.html into letter grades. Finally, I'm going to make another one called sum of numbers. And I'm going to put the sum numbers. Not to confuse you, I did it actually to try to not confuse you. So this letter grades that we're doing now, that is actually 3-2 letter grades. The sum of numbers is actually 3-3 sum of numbers, and the sales arrays will be 3-4. There. Now you've got at least a little bit of rhyme and reason as to what's what. So let me open up the letter grades. You've already got this one. All right, so I'm going to open up the letter grades now in code. And we're told in here with this one that we should actually put the code right in here. So I'm going to do that. All right. So what do we need in here? Well, we need actually two things. We need a number grade and a letter grade. That should make sense. So I'm going to create two variables. Let number grade, and I'll set it equal to 0. That's just giving it an initial value. Let letter grade, and that's going to be A, B, C, D, F, etc. So I'll set that equal to what's called the empty string. So it's equal to nothing. All right. Then I want to come in and I've got a prompt for the number grade. So again, let me come in and under view and let me word wrap. Looks like, why isn't it allowing me to word wrap? For some reason, they're missing the HTML tag in here, and I don't know why. There. All right, so the errors are gone. Can I go to view now? Word wrap. Okay, so we've now created these two grades. This will be a number grade, and I'll even put a comment here that says must be between 0 and 100. This will be a letter grade, and it will be A, B, C, D, or F. All right. Now, one thing I can do, I don't have to, all right, but I'm going to do it anyway, and that is I'm going to come in here and make two constant. So a min grade, that's the smallest grade you can get, and I'm going to set it equal to 0. And I'm going to make another constant that's called max grade, and I'm going to set that equal to 100. That's the highest grade you can get. All right. So now what I have to do is I have to read in the number grade. Okay. And again, I'm going to try to do this one again, kind of the way that it was done by Muroc in the book. So I'll say while number grade is less than the min grade, or it's greater than the max grade. In other words, as long as I keep putting in something that's either non-numeric or something that's less than 0 or something greater than 100, I want to keep myself stuck in here. Okay, I want to keep myself stuck in there. Okay, so I want to read that in. So I now want to read in this value. So I want to say here, number grade equal parse int, it's going to be a whole number, prompt, and we'll say enter number grade from 0 through 100, and then we'll put on the next line here, so a new line, or enter 999 to end program. Program now. Now, we have not put in the code that's going to actually handle that yet. All right, but we should be able to run it in just a minute and see whether or not that works. Okay, so we should then have a grade. All right, now we're going to, as it said, we're going to do a bunch of if statements. If number grade is greater than or equal to 88, letter grade is equal to A. And that's just the requirement that was in the book. All right, or in our PDF. So that was this one. All right. Else, if grade, then letter grade is equal to a B. All right. And I should have done a better job of looking, but then, whoops, don't want that. $68 and $60. 68 and 60. Okay, it is right. 68. C. If number grade greater than or equal to 60. Letter grade is equal to a D. Otherwise, letter grade is equal to an F. Now, normally when I explain this to students, they get confused and they say, wait a minute, let's say that I put in here a 90. Okay. All right. So yeah, it's an A. But what about this? Because 90 is also greater than or equal to this, it's also greater than, remember the way this works. As soon as it finds a match, so if the if matches, it skips all the else ifs and the else. It skips everything. All right. So we've come in here, let's see. We've got all this do's. We're asking the person to do all this stuff that's in here. All right. So we're converting it. Problem is, if we put hello in there or something like that for the grade, it's going to probably be an F because it'll be NaN. So it won't make any sense at all to the system doing that. All right. So we might have garbage in there. How do we get around that? Well, we can actually check down here, and rather than making our check here like this, we can make our check in here, and we can say if, and I'm going to put all this stuff in here. And we're going to say if the number grade is greater than or equal to 0, and the number grade is less than or equal to 100, then we do want to print all this stuff out. All right, so we've got that. So if that's we're going to write it out. We'll write that out in a minute. But then we're going to change what's in here. And if you remember, we want to quit if number grade is equal to 999. All right, so the only thing we have to do is to figure out how to print this out right here. All right, and that's going to go right there. Everything else is done in the program. All right. In fact, if I save this and I run it, we'll see if I have any errors. All right, enter a grade from 0 to 100 or 999 to end program now. Well, let's do the easiest one. 999. Okay, program ended. That's good. All right, let's put in something that's out of range. Okay, well, right now we're not handling that, so okay, but it's not printing it. That's good. It didn't print those things that were out of whack. We do want to print the ones that are in whack or that are okay. So we do want to print the ones again that are between 100 or 0 and 100. All right, so I'm going to put in here let HTML equal, make a paragraph, and we'll say grade. Back, we'll do this. We'll say number grade, like that. So number grade. All right, and then we'll put in a \n here, so it'll be on a new line, and then we'll say letter grade. And then we'll end our paragraph. All right, and then all we have to do is write this. So document.write HTML. Now, again, there could be mistakes in here, but let's try it. So I'm first going to put in garbage. Hello. Nothing should have happened there. Shouldn't print. All right, then I'm going to put in something out of range. -3. Again, nothing should print. Then out of range again, 101. Nothing should print. Then let's try everything. So we'll try 100. That should be an A. 90. That should be a B. 85. I'm sorry. 90 and 100 should both be A's. 85. 80, I believe, is also a B. 75 is a C. 69 should also be a C. 61 should be a D. 60 should be a D. And let's say 12. That should be an F. Now let's try 999. Okay, that's okay. It isn't printing out the right stuff, but notice it did print out one for everything that's in here. All right, so it doesn't like something as far as my formatting. That's not a big thing. All right, it's actually, that's good. But I'll bet you if I inspect, it's not going to show any errors. All right, it doesn't know that's what I want to print. So let's look and see here what it didn't like. I forgot the $sign here. And I forgot the $sign here. Okay, that was on me. So file, let's run it again. Again, I'll put nothing in there. Nothing should print. I'll put garbage in there. Nothing should print. I'll put in something out of range. Nothing should print. Again, out of range. Nothing should print. That's 4 or 5 things that shouldn't print. Let's do it the other way now. Let's see, you got a 3. That should be an F. A 60, I think, is a D. A 68 is a D, I believe, also. A 2 is a C. A 77, I think, is also a C. An 80, I think, was a B, and an 87 was a B. 88 was an A, and so was 100 an A. 999 to quit, and there we go. And you'll notice that the only things that are printing out in here are valid entries that we made. So when I put in a number that was less than 0, didn't print. Put in a number greater than 100, didn't print. Put in a non-numeric value, didn't print. All right, so as far as I can tell looking at this, everything looks like it's working in here. So if we take a quick look at the program before we go on to the next one, again, I could have broken it before and put it into different routines. So I could have had one routine here where I was inputting, another routine here where I was figuring out the letter grade, another routine here where I was writing. We could have done that. That's what we'll be building toward eventually. So here's our two constants. So this is basically the lowest allowable grade. All right, that's the lowest grade that you said somebody can get. This is the highest allowable grade. All right. Then, as it says, we've got number grade that has to be between 0 and 100, and letter grade, which will be one of those. So here we're reading in the number grade. Here we are calculating the letter grade. And here, if the number grade was between 0 and 100, we are displaying the number grade and the letter grade. All right. And here we are making our check to see if program should now end. Now, my hope is as we start to go through these, they just start to make a little bit of sense to you. You will have, there's two more to do here, but you will have at the end of the day, 10 programs or so out there. See if you can write any of them yourselves. Go into some of those programs and make mistakes. Make a copy so you've got the original, and then make some changes just to see what happens if you do that. All right. All right, what is next here? So that was the letter grade. Now we need, according to this, sum of numbers. Okay. So let's do the same kind of thing in here. All right. And what I mean is I'll make a JS folder. And inside of that, I will put in a scripts.js file. Now, if they do tell us to do it in line here, I'll just do it in there. So let's look. Let me open this one up. So again, this is sum of numbers. So let's open this up in code. All right, there it is. Yep, they do show it in here again. I hate the idea of putting those things in there the way that they're showing them, but fine. That's what they want. That's what they want. So what does this one say? This application will give you a chance to use a for loop. It asks the user to enter a number between 1 and 100 with the box that you see right there. So enter any number to sum from 1 through 100 to give the user a chance to do multiple entries. All right, this will be displayed. Finally, it adds them up. So if I put 5 in there, it'll add the numbers 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5. If I put the number 89 in there, it'll be 1 plus 2 plus 3 all the way to 89. All right. So in the script element, add a prompts the user for an entry from 1 to 100. If the entry is invalid, display an alert box with a message, please enter a number between 1 and 100. All right, then continue until the entry is valid. After the do while loop, have a for loop that will sum the numbers. Add a do while loop around all the code that uses second dialog box to determine whether or not you should continue the program. So I wrote that as a routine called run again. They don't want it like that. And I'm going to do exactly what they're asking us to do. All right, so let's come in and start doing it. Close this, let me close this. And we will open up this. Okay. Again, I don't know why, but it's just missing my HTML tag. The beginning tag. That's why you get those errors with that in there. So, okay, so we've got sum of numbers. All right. Let's see, what do we want in here? Well, we want a number that you want to add to. So if I put in 16, I want to add 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4. We can call it whatever we want. Let's call it top number. And we will set it up at the beginning equal to 0. All right. And then we also want to let the program run again. So we'll call it again, and we'll set that equal to the empty string. Now, before we do this, let's again create those two constants. And I'm going to call this min number, and that's 1. And another const with max number, and that's 100. Now, these constants do not have to be in uppercase. All right. Most of the time when you work with true constants in most programming languages, you put them in uppercase. That's why I did it the way I did it. All right. Okay. So let's come in here and start writing this then. Now, we've got all this stuff. And as mentioned, we're going to have two do while loops in here. So I'm going to put a do right here. And it'll end down there. And in there, I'm going to have another do. Those are called nested loops. There is a loop there within a loop. I want to say that again. There is a loop within a loop. All right. So in here, I want to let the user input their top number. Okay. So top number equals parse int, and let me word wrap again. All right. It equals parse int, because these are whole numbers, prompt, enter, whoopsie, enter any top number to sum. All right. And then we'll say number must be between 1 and 100. Okay. Now, there's 4 things that can happen here. Number 1, the user can enter something non-numeric, in which case top number is going to be equal to NaN, not a number. That's the first thing. 2, they can enter a number less than 1. 3, they can enter a number greater than 100. If less than 1 or a number greater than 100, they're out of range. Or 4, they can enter a valid number, which is between 1 and 100. So I'm going to check for those. I'm going to check for non-numeric or out of range input. That's what I'm going to do here. So if either is NaN top number, so if I put something in there, all right, that was not a number, or I'm going to put it over 3 lines, top number is less than min number, or you don't have to line that up. I'm just a little funky that way. Or the top number is greater than the max number. So if any of these three things have happened, they're bad. We don't want to let those happen. So we're going to put an alert out there that's going to tell the user that they screwed up, for lack of better words. So alert, and it'll just say, please enter a number between 1 and 100. Okay. All right. So we have them do this. That's all fine and dandy. Okay. But I've got to end this do while. So I want to do this while, and it's going to look a lot like the if I just put in. So while is NaN top number or top number is less than our min number, or our top number is greater than our max number. And I forgot to put another or in here. All right. So that's that do while. All right. Now what do I want to do? Well, when I get down to here, when I reach this point, we have inputted a number between 1 and 100. So figure out the sum of all numbers between 1 and the top number and print it out. Just like that. All right. So, well, it's a sum, so let's call it sum. Let sum equals 0. And now we can use a for loop. We can say for let LCV is what I call mine. It stands for loop control variable. Let LCV equal 1, LCV less than our top number, and let's keep adding 1 to our LCV. And then sum, so if I put a 4 in there, the first time through LCV will be 1, then it'll be 2, then it'll be 3, then it'll be 4. So in that case, I'd want to do the equivalent of saying sum equal 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4. But I don't want to say that because we could put in a different number other than 4. So I'm going to say sum plus equal LCV. It'll just keep adding. So if I put an 89 in there, it'll add 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 all the way to 89. All right. All right. We're almost done. So let's make a let. We'll have HTML again. And I'm just calling it HTML because that's what I'm writing. You can call it whatever you want. Okay. So that should say what the sum is. Then we now have, so document.write HTML. Finally, we want to ask the user if they want to run the program again. All right. Now we could write it and make checks. We're not told to. So I'm just going to basically set it equal to y. And I'm going to say, keep doing this while, again, equal either y, you can use double quotes or single quotes there, or again, equal in uppercase y. That should be everything. All right, let's take a quick look. All right, let's put in something out of range. So let's put in 0. Please enter a number between 1 and 100. That's good. Let's put in 101. Same thing. That's good. I think what they showed in the book too is when they put in, what I'm going to use their same values, 5 and 89. We should get 15 and 4005. That's fine. So 5, run it again, yes, and 89. Run it again, no. Whoa. Okay, we'll try it again with 10. Run the program again. No. Okay, it's not recognizing that we want to stop. That's okay. We'll fix that right now. Should have been at least 2 equals there. I think that's why it didn't work. So again, we'll try it with valid numbers. So let's say 10, 25, 75, and 89, 100. And to make sure it doesn't print out anything that's bad, let's put in here hello. So that shouldn't print. Let's put in here negative 34, so that shouldn't print. And let's put in here 1,000, so that shouldn't print. All right, we'll do one more and we'll just say 4. Run the program again, no. Now I'm looking here and I think I've got a mistake in my math because 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 is not 6. 1 plus 2 is 3. So it's going 1 less than it should be going. All right, that's really going 1 to 3 and not 1 to 4. So I think all these numbers are wrong. They're all off by 1. And that's actually referred to as an off by 1 error. So let's look and see what's wrong in the program. All right, it should have been less than or equal to the top number. I made it less than. So I was not including the last number. So run it again. We'll just put a couple in here. I know 10 should be 55. Put in 100. Oops. Okay, well, that one worked at least. We put in a few of them. So 10, 55, 89, 100. All right. I believe that everything in there is right. So you now have, all right, another one that works. All right. Now, I was thinking about this and what I'm going to do, just so you know. All right. This last program that they ask you to work on, I think at least, is too hard for where we currently are in here. All right. I will do it for you. I'm just not going to do it for you right now. So as it says here, in this exercise, we're going to have 5 different arrays. All right. Well, I just showed you what arrays were, and I think this is too much for right now. So I will do this one. I'm just not going to do it right now. All right. So before we finish for the day, let's take a look again at what you are supposed to be doing. So you now, okay, under all this for the chapter 3 extra, I'm going to write on the end here, not done. All right, but you have 1, 2, 3, 4, oops, 5, at least 6 programs there, plus the ones that I did, the array one, with arrays, without arrays, and the odds and evens. You've got 9 or 10 problems here. All right. So very quickly, because I don't want to waste your time, I'm going to change this to JavaScript problem set 1. Yeah, of course, I've got it open already. Let me close this. All right, so I've changed the name to that, and I'm going to quickly open Git Bash. To commits. All right, so that's done. I want to very quickly, because I don't want to waste your time. Okay. All right, so all of those are now out there on the system. But looking quickly at what you are supposed to be doing for homework. There. So you were supposed to be doing chapter 2 and 3, not the 3 with arrays, but 2 and 3. So let's open those. All right. So for chapter 3, and let me close a couple things here. Let me close this. Let's look at chapter 2. I want you to try this. You might have nothing but problems with it, but it's okay. I'm not making it worth 100 points. It's only going to be worth 10 points. So that'll be 3 points. That'll be 3 points. That'll be 3 points, and that'll be 1 point. All right. But the other one that you are supposed to be doing is complete 40% of the basic JavaScript course. So if you go out to the URL that's here, there it is. So you go down in here and you go down to basic JavaScript. There's 113 lessons. Now, before, again, I mentioned this yesterday, comment your JavaScript code. All right. It says there are 2 ways to make comments. It says you can make a multi-comment. Try creating one of each comment. So I'm going to make a comment here that says single line comment, and I'm going to make another one here that says multiple line comments. So I've done, I think at least, what they've asked me to do. All right, so it says try to create one of each. I haven't even gone through this, so I don't know how you go on to the next one. So let's see. You may have to sign in, so you may have to get an account. There'll be no charge, so don't worry about that. All right. But somewhere in here, it's gonna, there has to be something for the next one. Run the test. All right, it worked. Okay, boom. Okay, so reset this lesson, run the test, get help. All right, so I've done that one. When I come back to here, whoops, when I come back to here, it will eventually, after you log in, it'll show that colored in. All right, you are to do the first 45 lessons in here. Okay, between now and whenever we said they were going to be due. All right, and that was Wednesday. So you've got, right now, you've got a half an hour. If you've had enough, then that's it for the day. All right, tomorrow I am going to hand out the pretest. The pretest, I mentioned this before, much harder than your test. All right, and we're going to go through it, and you might find yourself stumbling through that. Just give it a try. You get an hour and a half, so you dedicate 45 minutes to each problem. All right, that'll be sent out to you tomorrow morning by 7 o'clock. I'll go over it between 8 a.m. or 8:05 a.m. and 8:20 a.m. You'll have 8:20 until 9:50 to work on it, an hour and a half. Take a break from 9:50 to 10, and at 10 o'clock, I'm going to write both of them for you. Then Thursday and Friday, again, will be lab days. That's all I've got. As always, if you have questions, please, jpscott@rankin.edu, let me know. Other than that, I'll talk to you all tomorrow. Have a good rest of the day. Thank you.